everyone, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how you can use the creative corners from My Sweet Petunia. I've done a previous video with these. I'll leave that linked in the top right hand corner. But today I'm going to be using my MISTI and my creative corners with some cling mounted red rubber stamps from Crackerbox and Susie Stamps. You've seen those two that I will be using today. And here is a look at the creative corners. Now you get 5 pieces in this set. It is about $15, I believe. Not very expensive at all. And you get these 2 corner pieces. That's what I'm going to be focusing on the most today. I leave these in my MISTI all the time now anyway. They just stay there and stay put. You also get this nice little ruler that is amazing for straightening sentiments. If you want to just bump that right up, you've got that straight edge on the right hand side, or you can flip it over, use it long ways, but you can bump that right up and make sure that your sentiments are nice and straight. You also get 2 triangle pieces. You get this very right triangle, and you also get a little bit more longer triangle, and these are great for doing some pattern stamping, if you want to do a little bit of slanted sentiments, that kind of thing. These are really helpful with that, especially building up pattern backgrounds that you want on an angle. These are amazing. You can use these any which way in your MISTI. You can flip them around, flip them over, use them upside down. It really is up to you. You can play around with these a lot. Like I said, I'm going to be focusing on these corners today though. These are my favorite. Now with your red rubber stamps that are cling mounted, you're going to need to take that foam piece that comes in your MISTI out. I actually have the mouse pad that they sell. It's only a couple bucks and that thing is amazing. You just wipe it down if you get a little ink on it so you're not constantly switching out grid paper. I have used a laminated piece of grid paper and that works, but this mouse pad is a little bit better because it's got a little bit of a rougher texture. The ink doesn't smear near as easily and it kind of stays until you wipe it away with a cloth. I'm using a piece of white cardstock. This measures 4 inches by 5¼ inches, so a little bit smaller than your A2 size note card. And I'm starting off with this tree image. It's kind of like a piece of wood image from Crackerbox and Susie Stamps. It's got a little heart in the middle. I'm going to build up a background. I'm going to be doing a lot of off the edge stamping. So I need to use that little piece in my corner of my MISTI. That's going to pull my paper away from the sides. That way, when I go to stamp off on the sides, it's not going to get in the way of the side of the MISTI. So no more pulling your paper out into the middle of your MISTI, praying to God or marking little corners and hoping that everything lines up the second time. This gives you that nice corner you can tuck your paper up into, put your magnet on top of it. If it does shift or anything, just pop it right back into that corner and it's going to line up perfectly again. So this is just a little bit of an extender. You can also build these up and do 2 at a time if you want, which I'll do that in a moment. I'm using Versamark ink to stamp down my little image here, and because I'm using my MISTI, I'm going to go ahead and double stamp because I know it's going to line up perfectly each and every time. That way I know I'm just getting a nice, good impression. I'm also using my embossing bag. I did go ahead and prep my surface before I did my stamping. Then I'm using a little bit of Princess Gold embossing powder from Ranger. This is just a little bit of a lighter, shinier gold than like your antiques or regular gold finishes. Just a very pretty color. I went ahead and heat set that with my embossing tool, and then I'm going to start moving this around. I'm going to stamp in the top left-hand corner, and you can see if I don't have that little corner in there, that little creative corners up in the top right-hand corner, that would have bumped into the top of my MISTI. Now you can bring that down to the bottom and stamp it that way, or flip it around if you wanted to and stamp it that way, but I get a little bit confused whenever I try and flip things around and move them around of which way I need to stamp them. So this just helps me out and makes me use my brain a little bit less. Like I said before, you can also build these up and use them 2 at a time. So here I'm doubling up those corners, making sure they're nice and snug. And then I've got an even more extended way to stamp these. So I want to stamp in the bottom right hand corner. I didn't have enough room, so I went ahead and built 2 up. And there I've got the perfect amount of space to go ahead and get my image right in there. and go ahead and stamp that down in the bottom right hand corner. And again, I'm using my MISTI, so I might as well double stamp because it just gives me that really good feeling that I've got a good solid image that's going to heat emboss well. I did the entire background that way, heat embossed all of them with that same embossing powder. And then I went ahead and pulled out my stamp and I matched a circle die to the size of this. This is slightly larger, but it fits pretty well with that little wood slice there. So I'll go ahead and die cut that 3 times, from computer paper. I did 3 because I'm going to be using distress inks in 3 different colors. I've got some pumice stone, Victorian velvet, and peeled paint for my color palette today. I get all of my color palettes from Pinterest. I have a link to that down in the description box below. That just helps me really coordinate my color combinations because I'm horrible at that in real life. So I have a whole board dedicated to that. I'm using Victorian velvet and I am simply putting that mask that I created with computer paper right over the top of one of those wood slices and then blending on the color. I'm going to start off light-handed, but then I found out quickly I wanted to go pretty heavy-handed with this. So once I did that, this took no time at all. I just started stamping on color and really building it up. Anywhere that stamped image is with the embossing, it's going to resist the ink. So it's going to build up all around the wood slice, really give a nice definition to that image, and then it'll leave all of that perfect gold color just kind of front and center. I'm going to move this around and do 2 of these. I'm going to do the one very small slice in the very top. I'll go ahead and ink up that little piece right there. Now for my next color, I'm using peeled paint. I'm going to stamp this color on as well with my mini ink blending tool. And I'm going to do 2 of these wood slices. I kind of plan these out to where no 2 slices next to each other would be the same color. So I'm going to go ahead and do the next one in the bottom left hand corner. And this is very, very quick and easy to do that one because it was tiny. Now I'm going to use some pumice stone. This one I'll actually be doing 3. I've got the one on the left hand side, the one on the right hand side, and the one in the bottom right hand corner. Since there was no really full image of that one, that's the one I decided to go ahead and do 3 of. The rest of them, I just did 2. It kind of evened out the color, how much of each color was on the panel itself. I've got my last one that I'm doing here. I did cut 3 of those masks, and you see me using a different one for each time. That's just so no color transfers while I'm blending on new color, so you don't get a wonky brown right in the center of one of your wood slices. Now I gave that just a little bit of time to set up, and then I went ahead and used just a dry cloth to buff off any ink that might be stuck on top of that embossing. Here's a closer look at one of those wood slices. You can really see the nice outline of the wood image, and that gold just really gives it a chance to pop away from those colored backgrounds since I put that color behind the images. So the creative corners are also great for stamping on banners. I created this little banner just by cutting an angle at one end of a piece of 1-inch white cardstock that's just cut into a strip. I'm going to use that thank you sentiment again from Crackerbox and Susie Stamps. I line that up on the left hand side there, so it's just a little bit of ways from that banner. I'll prep my surface with my embossing bag. I do have that loaded into my MISTI with the creative corner in place. That bumps that away from that bottom edge, so now my stamps aren't going to run into that bottom edge and just look weird once I stamp them. It can also sometimes mess up your stamping if you get that close to the edge of it. It won't stamp all the way. So just bringing that out a little bit and knowing that it's going to be in the same place every time really helps a lot with that little piece right there in the corner. I stamped that down with the Versamark ink twice because, again, why not? And I put on some more Princess Gold embossing powder, and I will go ahead and heat set that with my heat tool. And then I also cut a banner from some gold cardstock that matched that one as well. Now I started building up my card here. So I'm using the panel that I made with the wood slices on there, and I am popping that onto a gold cardstock mat. That's the same gold cardstock that matches my banner. If you don't have any gold cardstock, you can always heat emboss some cardstock with the same embossing powder you use. That way it matches perfectly. I got lucky and had some gold cardstock in my stash that matched pretty well. But if you do not have any, you can always go the other route as well. Now I went ahead and matted my cardstock panel with the gold and then put it on my card base, and when I put it on my card base, it was upside down. And I went ahead and started building some more because I didn't realize it until I went to put on my sentiment panel that I had layered this upside down. I'm going to show you how I fixed that though. So I went ahead and built up my sentiment banners. I put the gold behind the white banner just for a little something fun and to help it pop away from that white background. I put some fun foam on the back of that, and I'm going to place that on my cardstock. I'm going to have to peel this up though, because like I said, I was in a hurry here. It was late at night. I was ready to go to bed, and I popped that on upside down. So always check before you put on your panels, but if you're like me and you screw up every once in a while, that's okay. You can still fix it. What I did was I put that in my paper trimmer, sliced off the back of the card base, and I just left it on the white panel. I applied some more adhesive on the back of that white panel, so all I need to do is go ahead and pop that onto a new A2 top folding card base. This time make sure it's going the right way. And this lines up perfectly, so all I need to do is pop this in my MISTI, use it as kind of a guide to make sure everything's nice and straight, and there I've got my card that is now the right side up, ready to go. It makes it a little bit thicker on the front, especially using a heavyweight cardstock as your card base. That's okay, it still turned out good. I popped on my little banner, did a little bit of stamping on the inside with some brown dye ink with the same stamp I used on the outside to kind of carry that color in on the inside as well. I always like to finish off the inside of my cards, and the easiest way to do that is just by stamping a few of the images on the inside. So I did that in the bottom left hand corner. And finally, all I need to do is add some Nuvo drops. These are in gold. I'm not sure the exact color, but all of the supplies I used will be linked down in the description box. So if you have any questions about colors, about embossing powders, heat tools, all that stuff, it's always linked down below for you. I put on a sprinkling of those Nuvo drops, and that finished off the card for today. Here's a closer look at that card inside and out. And today there is a blog hop going on with My Sweet Petunia and Crackerbox and Susie Stamps. Both companies are offering $50 gift cards to random winners. So make sure you head to the link down in the description box to check out the entire blog hop and read all the rules about that. Thank you guys for watching today. There are going to be a few links on the left side of your screen you can click on as always. If you're not subscribed, you can do that over there too. And if you like this video, you can always give me a thumbs up down below. It is much appreciated. Happy crafting, everybody.